So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to be in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant. If you have an anxious, preoccupied attachment style, right? So most relationship coaches, which I'm not one, they don't recommend that dismissive avoidance and people with anxious attachment styles date or be in a relationship, right? So in this video, I'm just going to give you some tips and guidance on how you could be with a dismissive avoidant if you have an anxious attachment style, right? So one of the first things you need to do, you need to learn and know about both attachment styles. I have a video on how to cope with dismissive avoidant attachment style and another video on how to cope with anxious preoccupied attachment style. You could watch those before you watch this to know about these attachment styles. So to be in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, that's the first thing you need to know, is to know about their traits, their characteristics, and also yours. This is not going to be easy. It may take a very long time to have a successful relationship with them. It could take a year, it could take 2 years, it could take 3 years, it could take years working on yourself and working with them to have a good enough relationship and to heal and to become secure, right? Nothing is guaranteed. This would be a very difficult process, stressful and frustrating process to be with a dismissive avoidant, right? Make sure if you're going to be in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant and you have anxious attachment style, make sure that you do not have any mental illness like post-traumatic stress disorder or major depressive disorder or generalized anxiety disorder or you're alcoholic or whatever. You shouldn't have any mental illness if you're going to do this, right? So mental illness affects intimate relationships greatly, so make sure you don't have any of these. So a dismissive avoidant, I'll give some traits because some people, they may not go and watch the video that I recommend. Some traits: a dismissive avoidant is somebody who is highly sufficient, and there would be timestamps beneath the video if you want to skip past through this and get to the how to do it then. Okay, so a dismissive avoidant, they are highly sufficient, which means that they would withdraw in hard times, they would withdraw to deal with their own personal issues, and they would just resolve their problems separate from their partner. They don't show emotions, they don't show feelings, they don't really prioritize relationships. They would more prioritize their work and their career and their hobbies and their platonic friendships, not a romantic relationship. Dismissive avoidance, they're over concerned about being controlled, about losing their independence. Therefore, their schedule might be really fixed. They would not really sacrifice or compromise to fit you in their schedule. Dismissive avoidance, they deliberately aggravate their partner so their partner wouldn't get too close to them. So they might flirt with others. They might just ignore your calls. They ignore your texts. They make decisions without you. They have a double life. They disappear on you. They ghost on you, right? That would push you away, and that would they would do those things just to not get close to you or you get close to them. They're extremely secretive. They hide things. They hold important information from you. They avoid emotional connection. They avoid closeness. They avoid intimacy. They are more prone to casual relationships, hooking up, friends with benefits, and so on. They consider emotions as weakness, and asking for help is like a weakness to them. They avoid vulnerability. They don't seek affection. They withdraw from you when things are getting too serious within the relationship. They might think you're needy and you're clingy, and you might not be. Other people's feelings, like their partner's feelings and their partner's emotions, might make them uneasy, and they might run away and they pull away from you, or they avoid you when they see that happening with you. They fear commitment. Maybe a commitment seems like it's too much of a big responsibility, and just they might feel overwhelmed with that, and they just don't. They fear serious commitment. They look for an excuse to break up with you when things start to get too close. They break up for no reason. They pull away when important topics need to be discussed, or you have big emotions or whatever coming up. They'll pull away. So that's a dismissive avoidant. That's just like a brief description of them. So the first thing what you need to do is to know about both attachment style, and that was the dismissive avoidant. And now you have a preoccupied attachment style, the anxious preoccupied attachment style. And the second thing you need to do is to remember every day that you do these things that I'm going to describe now, right? Remember, you're going to accept who you are. You're going to accept that you have an anxious attachment style, an anxious preoccupied attachment style, and you're going to remember that you try too hard to be emotionally close to them. You want to be with them physically all the time. You are clingy and you are needy. You're going to accept this and remember these things every day, that you want to be invited to almost everything that is happening in their lives. You want to know what they're doing all the time. Most of the time, you blame them. You use guilt to get what you want, to feel better about yourself. When things are going wrong in your relationship, you're ready to blame and criticize. You're going to remember all of this, and you're going to accept that you are like this, that you are extremely jealous, and you create unnecessary tension and argument in the relationship when you get jealous. You focus too much on the relationship. You're hypervigilant of your partner's actions, of their behavior. You're always thinking that your relationship is in trouble. You're going to remember these things, and you're going to accept that you do these things, right? You're going to accept and remember every day that you become angry and you become impulsive when you sense danger in your relationship, when you feel rejected in some way. Sometimes you might hold on to anger. You might hold your anger in. You redirect it to yourself, and then you start to feel resentful towards your partner, and then you explode. That's another thing that people with anxious attachment style will do. You struggle with big emotions and anxiety. You take things personally. You have to remember these every day, that you take things personally. You reach out too often for love and attention. You think about the worst scenario, when they don't answer the phone, when they don't text back, when they don't respond to you immediately. You curse them in your mind. So you're going to remember that you do all of these, and you're going to accept that you are like this, and it's not healthy. So, and those basically are the traits of somebody with an anxious attachment style. This is how you look in relationship. This is how you act, and you're going to remember these every day in order to catch these bad behavior and stop them and change them, right? Third thing you need to do is to remember and know what triggers you, what provokes you, what makes you overly emotional, right? So you have to know what is going to provoke you, what is going to set off your anxiety, what is going to crank you up. You have to be mindful of all of these things. So some things that would trigger you is when your partner become inconsistent, right? When they're inconsistent with texts, with calls, with dates. Partner might not message you back. They might not answer your calls. That is going to trigger you. That is going to set off your anxiety. They don't return your missed calls. They distance themselves. They are distracted in your presence when you're talking to them. They're on their phone, or they're talking to someone else, or they're just not focused on you. that could trigger your anxiety, that could trigger you, cause a lot of big emotions to arise in you. They forget important events, they forget your birthday, they forget your graduation, they forget your anniversary, they forget important stuff. Other things that will trigger you, they're extremely secretive and they lie, they have a double life. They doesn't reschedule for you, they're not flexible, they don't fit you in your schedule, that could trigger you. They might just have friends with benefits for fun, casual dating, they're hooking up here and there, even when they're in a relationship. They go missing. That can really trigger you. When they go missing for hours, they go missing for days, they go missing for weeks, months, without any warning. That could really trigger you and provoke you. They act aloof. You might be talking to them about something important, you might be expressing your emotions, something is bothering you, blah blah blah, and they change the topic. They seem like unconcerned, they're like insensitive towards you, towards your feelings, towards your thoughts while you're talking or you're hanging out or whatever. They're just not there, they're really distracted. That could trigger you. They may not plan dates, they may not spend quality time with you, they may walk a lot, they may be a workaholic, and they may be more interested in their platonic friendships, which is not a threat. So those are things that could trigger you, those are things that could provoke you and cause you to get a lot of strong emotions and feel angry and feel anxious, right? So what I just mentioned is things that you need to keep in mind so that you can see how you react and so that you can change your behavior, right? So when these things come up, what you need to do is to do not create an argument, do not be dramatic, do not be overly emotional, do not play a victim. These are things that people with anxious attachment style will do when they get triggered, when they get provoked, when they get crank up or the anxiety is set off or something like that. You play victim, you overreact, you scream, you shout, you cry. I'm saying to do not do that. So you have to change this behavior. Do not display your big emotions to them, or you're being impulsive or have angry outbursts. Do not do this. Doing all of these things will push them away, right? Do not become aggressive or overly angry when you're handling conflict, especially when you have some sort of misunderstanding. Just try to listen to their perspective. Do not hold in your anger and then explode. That's why you should be communicating often. Do not blame them. Do not criticize them for your emotions. You have to take responsibility for your own emotions, and when you are discussing anything, any misunderstanding, or you're trying to resolve conflict, you need to use I feel statements. Do not blame them when you're trying to express some sort of displeasure, or you're unhappy about something, or you feel a discomfort in some way within your relationship. You have to use I feel statements instead of blaming them, instead of criticizing them. Blaming and criticizing them will push them away, right? So when you are with a dismissive avoidant, it is recommended that you work on your passions, you work on your goals, because you focus too much on the relationship, you focus too much on them. So you need to better yourself. You need to do self-care. You need to work on your hobbies. You need to link up with your friends. You need to heal your trauma. You need to work on your side hustle. These are examples of things that you should be prioritizing, right? Working on creating our own routine for yourself, our own schedule for yourself, right? So you don't focus too much on them. You with this attachment style, with having a preoccupied, anxious attachment style, you focus too much on relationship, you focus on pleasing them, you focus on being there for them every single day. And what I'm saying is that you need to focus on you and create your own routine in your life, right? Work on being independent and work on being self-sufficient. And you need to use self-soothing strategies. You need to know how to soothe yourself, you need to know how to be there for yourself. take time away from them. Take time away from them when you feel out of control, right? So, fourth thing you need to do is to work on yourself. And I'm going to get in more details. When I say work on yourself, one of the things that you're going to do to work on yourself is to develop or create self-regulating strategies to help you control your emotions, to help you control your thoughts, to help you control your behavior and your impulsive action that you may take when you get in the heat of when you're in the heat of the moment. Many emotions and thoughts will come up and you might be impulsive, and you need self-regulating strategies, right? So for example, you need to develop breathing intentionally, or you take a pause when you take a pause between your feelings and your actions. You pause when you feel a big emotion before you do anything. You take time out to think through things. You wait patiently. You might make a plan or you might try to make the right decision, like just to take time off to plan out what you're going to say before you react. So one of the an example of a self-regulating strategy would be breathing intentionally, calming down, letting your emotions subside, pause and taking a moment, just breathing in through your nose, out your mouth, intentionally focusing on your breathing. So that is one self-regulating strategy, right? Next self-regulating strategy you could use is to be aware and to be mindful by paying attention to the present moment without judging yourself, without judging them, without trying to change the reality. Just being observant, not judging yourself and not judging them. Just being aware and mindful of what is going on. Right? Do not engage in negative thoughts. Do not spiral when you're in the midst of a strong, painful emotion. Do not add negative thoughts to that. Be mindful of and aware of what you're thinking, of how you're feeling, the emotions coming up, the changes in your body, like your heart rate. Your heart might start beating faster when you get triggered. You might start breathing faster. You feel your anxiety rising. You may feel like you're unable to sit still. You need to monitor your bodily reactions, right? Your heart rate, your breathing. Your breathing may increase. You might feel tension in your neck. You might feel tension in your head. You might feel your stomach upset when you get triggered. So you need to, that is what I'm saying, to be mindful, to be aware of these things. So you're going to inquire what is happening with you physically, and this can allow you to just get some time to relax and so your emotions will not be as intense because you're checking in with your body. So you might be able to see that you're going to have an angry outburst. You might feel that angry outburst is approaching. You might feel a little panicky, like you're having a panic attack coming, or you feel like rage approaching you. And if you're aware and mindful of this, there's a high possibility that you might not react in an angry manner when you're mindful of the sensations, or when you're mindful of your big emotions coming up. They could be reduced if you are aware of them coming in, and hopefully you can recognize them and not explode. Think before you act. Stop and settle, let your big emotions subside. Wait for a few minutes, wait for a few hours, wait for the next day to respond. These are just strategies you're going to use, you're going to take when things get out of control with your emotions and your anxiety. Next thing you could do is just be aware of your emotions. You may feel like lashing out in anger because they hurt you. You have had some sort of misunderstanding. And knowing what you are feeling and taking responsibilities of these emotions. They are your emotions. Your partner is not responsible for if you feel jealous, your sadness, your fear of rejection, your disappointment. Like, do not blame and criticize them or emotionally dump on them. You are responsible for your own emotions, right? So be aware of your emotions and be responsible for them, and do not emotionally dump on them, and do not blame or criticize them for your emotions. Next, like self-regulating strategy is just accepting your emotions. Emotions are normal. Emotions are natural. It's a natural way we respond to different situations in our life. Don't, especially with this attachment style, don't beat yourself up because you are experiencing, like, you jealous or you like angry or scared or something. Have some compassion with yourself and give yourself some grace sometimes when you have these big emotions, right? Experiencing emotions is normal, is a normal reaction. It's just that you don't want them to control you, right? Next thing is to just have positive self-talk. When you feel angry, when you feel rejected, when you feel abandoned, when you had a misunderstanding, when there's conflict, just try to reason it out in your mind first. Do not jump to conclusion. Do not assume how they feel or do not assume what they're thinking. Just say good things to yourself, say good things in your mind, have a good internal conversation with yourself. That is just one strategy you could use, right? So those were just some self-regulating strategies, things you could do in the heat of the moment, right? Next thing you need to do if you want to be with or be in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant is to change how you think. For example, especially like with having an anxious attachment style, you might be feeling rejected often, and for example, after you didn't hear from them for a couple hours or a couple of days, they go missing, you might start to believe and think that they do not care about me. They're with someone else. They're losing interest in me. They forgot about me. They don't like me anymore. They're ignoring me. They want to break up with me. Like, you jump to a lot of conclusions. You think many negative things. And instead of doing that, try to think positive thoughts. I mean, yeah, sometimes maybe they're with someone else. Maybe it's true that they're ignoring you. Like, we don't know, but try just to think positive thoughts about them, about yourself. They could just, for example, they are not responding to you. They did not answer the call. You just say, they could be busy. In your mind, they're busy. They will get back to me when they are free. You could say, maybe they are sick. Maybe they had some unfortunate situation, something bad happened, or they had an emergency that they needed to deal with, or they're just sorting something out, and when they're free, they will get back to me. That's just, you just think positive thoughts like that, and you move on with your day, right? So, and I suggest that you think like this, especially if you're with someone who you see have good intentions, who seem like they're a good person, who would not like intentionally hurt you. You should think good thoughts about them, right? You do not know what is going on in their reality. You do not know what is going on their side. They could be busy. Maybe something happened to their phone. You don't know. So stay calm, stay positive, relax, and continue on in your day, having a good internal dialogue, right? The next thing I think is the sixth thing you need to do if you want to be in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant is to change the way you communicate with them. You have to change the way you speak. If you're angry, if you're upset, if there's a problem or issue in the relationship, you would want to change the way you communicate, because with a anxious attachment style, you tend to blame and you tend to criticize a lot. So you need to start to take responsibility for your feelings and for your emotions. And doing that is one way to do that is to change the way you communicate, change the way you speak. So in the heat of an argument, or you had a misunderstanding, or maybe there was an issue and you want to explain or discuss that you're unhappy about something, or you feel discomfort about something, or you're whatever it is, you need to start to use I statements like I feel hurt about this because, don't blame and criticize. You have to start to explain yourself in a way like this. I feel hurt because whatever they did, and you continue and you say, you probably did not intend to do that, but it made me feel that way. When you do this, I feel alone. When you do this, I feel rejected. When you do this, I feel abandoned. You're talking about how you feel and not blaming them and not criticizing them, right? So instead of saying, why you don't answer my calls, why you're not responding to my texts, you could say, I would like it if you maybe make a quick call or send a quick text just to say that you're busy instead of ignoring, right? Or instead of not calling back. You could just say, I would like it if you, and you describe the change you want to see. Don't blame them or say, why you don't answer my call? Why you not returning my text? Why, right? Say, I would like it if you, and you describe what you want them to do, right? So instead of overreacting, instead of saying, maybe you did something wrong and you're trying to say you did something wrong in relationship, and then you're discussing it, and then you're saying to them, it's not a big deal, that was uncalled for, you didn't have to behave like that. You should say, I could see why you're upset and I would like to understand why you're upset, instead of saying, why are you overreacting, it's not a big deal. Instead of saying that, you could say, I could see why you're upset and I would like to understand and know why you behave like that, right? Instead of saying you're lying and you lie, or no, that is not the way it went. Maybe something happened in the past and you're trying to resolve it. You're saying that's not the way it went. You're lying. No, that's not true. Instead of saying that, you can say, in my opinion, in my perspective, or the way I see it was, this is how it happened for me, or in my point of view, this is what happened, right? So you have to change the way you communicate. For example, if you want to apologize, and this is not just for people with anxious attachment style. This is like in general, in normal relationships, you should communicate like this. This could be, anybody could watch this video to have a better relationship, to communicate better in their relationship with their partner. So to apologize, instead of saying, I'm sorry, but, or people say, I'm sorry you feel that way. Or people say, I agree with you, but, like, these are not the best way to apologize or to resolve anything, right? You should follow my Instagram. I explain how to apologize properly. So if you want to apologize, you say, I'm sorry for what you did. I'm sorry for, and you explain what you did. And I could understand why you would feel that way. Or I could understand why you reacted in that way. And I will try to do better next time. Instead of saying, I'm sorry, but. Saying I'm sorry and then saying but is like canceling the apology. And I'm sorry, feel that way. Some people, they apologize, they say, I'm sorry, feel that way. And I'm not talking about specifically people with anxious attachment style or people with avoidant attachment. In general, people apologize and they say, I'm sorry, feel that way. And sometimes they don't even know how you feel, or they don't even know what they did wrong. They just saying, I'm sorry, feel that way. That is not an apology. I agree with you, but that is not the best way to resolve conflict, right? So you need to change the way you communicate, change the way you listen. So you have to learn to respond instead of having a reaction that is too emotional. So you need to listen to what they're saying. Like if you have a conflict, or if you have a misunderstanding, or if you're trying to resolve some sort of issue, you need to listen to what they're saying without interrupting. You need to listen and understand not to respond to them or to win the argument. You listen to understand. You don't listen to respond, right? You need to notice your feelings and your emotions coming up when you're talking. You need to filter them, you need to interpret them, and don't let your emotions control you when you're trying to resolve an issue, right? For people with anxious attachment style, you need to breathe, you need to take pauses, you need to let your big emotions subside, you need to take a moment to settle down, to calm down. You could ask for time to cool off before you try to discuss any topic, right? You need time to settle down, to calm down. Your emotions can be really big. You can get really angry, you can get really sad, and you can get angry outbursts. So it's also better that you respond without blaming, as I mentioned before, because this is a big issue with people with preoccupied attachment style. You blame and you criticize. So respond and talk and communicate without blaming, without criticizing or creating argument. This would push them away, and they will get overwhelmed with your big emotions, and they would feel like a failure if you keep criticizing and blaming them, right? So change the way you communicate, change the way you speak. Speak from your side of the story. Speak from your experience. Speak from your situation. Explain what happened from your point of view, right? For example, when this happened, I felt like, don't try to name or describe what happened or explain what you think was happened for them, or explain what you think happened in their perspective, right? Or tell them, you're trying to tell them why they did what they did. You don't know. This will make the argument worse. You just speak from your side of the story, speak from your experience. If you're going through like the past, like something happened, right? Everybody have their own experience. They have their own version of what transpired. So you have to listen and you have to let them express themselves, right? When you are communicating, you need to validate them. You need to understand from their perspective with an open mind. If you do not agree, that's fine. You do not have to agree with everything they're saying, but you validate them and you understand them. You show empathy and you show respect, especially when you don't agree, right? When you are angry, you might say things that you don't mean. You might hurt your partner, and this will push them away when you say things you don't mean, and when you talk to them in an angry manner, you would regret things that you have said. So don't try to resolve conflict when you're heated and when you're angry. Next thing you should do, seventh thing you should do, is to adapt some traits of their attachment style, right? What I'm saying, you should act like them. Take hours to respond, take some days off, take even a week off for yourself when you get overwhelmed, when you get frustrated or you're stressed about something, maybe in your life personally or within the relationship. Maybe your work life have a problem, maybe your home life, social life, whatever personal problem you have. Take some time off from them. You should mention that you are taking space. Don't just go missing like them. But I mean, if you want to go missing like them, I think that's okay, but the right thing to do is to mention that you're taking space and just don't go missing, right? So take up their traits, take some hours off to cool down, resolve your own issues on your own. Take time to work on your career. Take time to work on your passion. Take time to work on your goals. Take time to work on your hobbies, because you are too focused on them. You are too focused on relationship. You are pleasing them. You're always looking out for them. Take time for your own friends. Work on your family relationships, because work on your family relationships and work on your platonic friendships, because with a dismissive avoidant, if you're in a relationship with them, most of the time they're not going to be there for you. Right? So you need to adapt their traits and resolve your own personal problems on your own, or with a trusted friend or with a family member that you trust, right? You need to show that you are self-sufficient and that you are independent, right? Show that you can go days without talking to them, you can go weeks without contacting them. And doing these will help you to become more independent and to become more self-sufficient. And no, you're not going to turn into like a dismissive avoidant. You, with this attachment style, if you need to just try to go hours without talking to them, go hours without contacting them, just to be more secure, just to heal, and just to be better, right? So, continuing, things that you need to remember when you're in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant is to not to pursue them, or even if you're dating, you could be dating a person with a dismissive avoidant attachment style, or you're in a relationship with them. Don't pursue them, don't chase them. Give them space, because if you chase them, you pursue them, this will push them away, right? Give them space. They will pull away, they will ghost you, they will disappear. If you call too much, you text too much, you're clingy and you're being needy, they will disappear. So give them space, do not pursue them, do not chase them. Right? Take time for yourself to meet your own needs. If you have a problem, you need support, you need to try to figure out how to resolve that on your own, or with a family member, or with a trusted friend. Right? Next thing to remember, don't take their behavior personally, right? They fear rejection just like you. They are just responding in a different way where they run away. Don't take their behavior personally. Try not to take their behavior personally, right? Next thing you need to remember, you need to take responsibility for choosing to be with them. Take responsibility for choosing to deal with them. So you can't get too angry or get too frustrated when they start being cold and distant and avoiding you or going missing for days and months. You have to take responsibility for being with them. You chose to be with them. So next thing you should remember is that when you show feelings and when you show emotions, especially if you're deep feelings or big emotions, this is going to make them uncomfortable, this is going to make them annoyed with you, this is going to make them feel incompetent, like they don't know how to deal with this emotion, and they're going to feel overwhelmed. And that is why they change the topic, that is why they change the location, that is why they just seem uninterested and they avoid you sometimes. They would escape, they would run away, and that is why they look uninterested. They look like they don't care when you are talking about feelings, you are talking about emotions, right? Especially if they're big and they're deep. They will be annoyed and uncomfortable with that, and you have to just remember that, right? Remember, they hide things, they lie, they're extremely secretive, because they are just maybe trying to feel safe in the relationship. That's their strategy. Remember that you need to reinforce positive behavior. When they do good things, when they might change your behavior that you didn't like, let them know that you see them being, if they start to open up to you, they start to be vulnerable with you, let them know that you see this, let them know that you notice this, and be open to hear them, right? Tell them about the ways that you value them in relationship, and be honest about this, be truthful, be genuine, be authentic about this. Validate their feelings, especially when they express their feelings to you. Support their career, support their hobbies, support their goals. Create a safe space, right, to communicate. So you have to be mindful about how you're going to express yourself, because this could push them away. If you're too angry, you're too aggressive, you have attitude, this will make them overwhelmed and would avoid you. So avoid talking to them when you're extremely sad, when you're in a low mood, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, when you're crying. Avoid talking to them, avoid displaying such big emotions with them. They'll be overwhelmed, and you will feel like they're not interested in you or they do not care, but they are overwhelmed with that and they might feel incompetent. So you should remember to talk in a calm way. talk in a moderate tone, talk without aggression, talk without attitude, right? Things to remember when you're with them. Continuing, don't complain about what you don't want, right? Instead, ask for them, ask if they could do something different. Don't complain, don't blame, don't criticize. Ask them to do small tasks for you and then increase it to bigger task, right? Wait until they open up. They're not going to open up to you just like that. Do not force them to open up. That will push them away. Remember that trust is built with time, right? So trust is built when you constantly repair conflict, and you constantly, like if you have a misunderstanding and you repair it, and with time, and they open up to you on their own time, that will build trust. Do not force anything. Do not try to ask them too much personal questions. Do not force them to open up. Do not force yourself on them to be close to them, right? Do not tell them what they did wrong, or they could feel like a failure like that, and that will push them away. Just ask them specifically if they could change a type of behavior, right? Communicate clearly, communicate calmly. Most of the time, the best that you can, communicate genuinely as much as possible, right? You have to remember that your partner don't need to fulfill all your needs. You are responsible for your own life. You need to nurture your own needs, right? You need to have, especially with a dismissive avoidant, if you want to be with someone who has a dismissive avoidant attachment style, you need to have your own interests, your own hobbies, your own circle of friends, your own passion, your own goals, and take time for yourself and stop focusing so much on them. I have to repeat this because it's very important, right? And being with them can help you become more emotionally mature and independent, right? Because when they're not there for you, you will be by yourself and you will be responsible for your own life, and this could help you be more mature emotionally, right? So that's a good thing. So you want to become more resilient in your life, because when you show that you can take care of yourself, that you show that you're not depending on them, that could help them to feel safe and to open up to you and to be more close to you, right? Show that you are self-sufficient and that you can do things without them, and this will make them feel safe and closer to you, right? Do not put pressure on them to help you to resolve your problems or issues. Try to be self-sufficient, right? Things you need to remember when you're with a dismissive avoidant, they will always need more distance, more time away from you than you would like, and they might never change. They might be like this forever, right? They might never change. And you need to also remember and understand that you may never get the closeness, or they might never be able to give you that bond or that connectedness that you're looking for, that vulnerability or that emotional connection that you want, that you desire. They might never be able to give you that if you want to be with a dismissive avoidant. Know that might not be possible at all, right? And that could be very exhausting, and you could feel burnt out, you could feel disregarded, you feel neglected, you feel abandoned, you feel like you're not cared for, you feel taken for granted. You will feel taken for granted a lot when you're with a dismissive avoidant, right? You will feel also disappointed a lot. So you have to just remember that these are some emotions or feelings that you're going to feel often if you're with a dismissive avoidant. Most of the time, they're not going to be there for you. They're going to be busy. They're working on their own life. They're working on their own personal issues separate from you. And that could make you feel like excluded, right? When they go missing and they take time for themselves, they take weeks for themselves, you need to just understand that is the way they are, and they might not change, right? Maybe you guys are getting closer. Maybe you are starting to look more like a serious relationship, like a more serious commitment, and they just decide to disappear on you. And you just have to accept that. And you will need to build your confidence, you will need to build your self-esteem, your self-concept if you're with them. You should build these things whether or not you're with a dismissive avoidant, right? Work on handling your own stress, your own problems, work on handling your own issues, your own frustrations, and do not directly try to get them to help you with this. This will push them away, right? Try to be more positive, try to focus more on positive emotions in your life. And I would say that it's good to have relationships with your family and your friends, because at some point they're not going to be there for you. They go missing. Anything could happen in one day. Maybe you had a bad day at work, you and your boss had a fight, and at that point they went missing for some hours, some days, and you're not able to connect with them to get emotional support. So you need to have like good platonic friends or family members that love you, that are close to you, that you could rely on them when things get really tough and you need emotional support, because they might not be there for you a lot of the time, right? So that's what you need to remember, and that is the reality of life. And that is why I could understand why some relationship coaches would suggest that you not be with them. But some people, they want to try this and they want to try to be with them and try to work it out. Some of the time, dismissive avoidant, they're not a bad person. They have good intentions. They could be loving, they could be caring, but the way that they react, or the way that they react to keep safe or to protect themselves, is just play out like this. And I would mention now how to know if a dismissive avoidant care about you or maybe interested in you. And one of the things that they would do if they're interested in you, or they might like you, or they care about you, is that they would apologize when they go missing. They will come back and they would apologize that they ghost or they disappear or they cause you to feel hurt in some way, right? And you would let them know that you appreciate their apology, and let them know when they make you feel loved, right? And let them know that you're glad that they care about your feelings. So they would apologize when they go missing, right? They might start to open up to you. They might talk about their past. They might talk about why they are the way they are. They might try to talk about hard topics with you, important topics with you. They will try to listen to you, especially if it's overwhelming and you have your big emotions, your sadness, your anger, or your disappointment, or your jealousy. They might try to listen to you, even if it's overwhelming to them at some point. They might, as I mentioned, they would explain like their behavior. They would express remorse for distancing. They might show that they feel ashamed or for ghosting you. They might show that they feel ashamed for like disappearing. They might reveal secrets to you. They might invite you to their space. They might invite you to their home. Like, that's a big one. With dismissive avoidance, they could be really private about their space where they live. And if they invite you in their home, they invite you in their space. That is, I think that is one of the biggest signs that they might care about you and they might be interested in you, or they might like you in some way, when they invite you in their space, right? They might introduce you to their friends, their family. And sometimes this is not, well, right now in society, introducing to friends and family is not so much of a big deal. People do that all the time. But with dismissive avoidance, if they invite you to their home, or you meet their parents, or you meet their friends, that could be a good sign that they might be interested in you, or they care about you, or they like you, or something, right? Another way you could know if a dismissive avoidant may be interested in you, or they have good intentions, or they like you, is that they keep coming back. After they take space, they will come back. And especially if they know that you're probably hurt when they left, they might not take space in a healthy way. They might just disappear without warning, which is often they do that. But that does not mean that they don't want to try to have a healthy relationship with you, or they don't like you, right? Another way that you could tell that they're interested in you, or they care about you, is that they might tell you that they want to make things better, that they want to be better for themselves, or they want to be better for the relationship. So those are just a few signs that they care about you. They might be interested in you, right? So just to like wrap up this video, I know it's a long video. If you are in a relationship with a dismissive avoidant, and you are stressed and you are confused, these are what you call it, normal emotions. Not like, these are emotions that you would feel most of the time. Confused about their behavior, stressed, burnt out, exhausted, fed up. Know that you can leave at any moment, right? You don't have to put up with this behavior. Sometimes being with them can increase your anxiety, and it can be really harmful for your mental health, especially when you need support and you're not there. So know that you could walk away at any time. You don't have to be with a dismissive avoidance. You could meet somebody better. You could meet somebody with a secure attachment style. You do not have to stay there. You don't have to put up with their behavior. It's possible to meet somebody different, right? Remember, it would take years to see changes, and know that they might never change. You might never see any change. This is very difficult to change attachment behavior. Even you with your anxious attachment style, you might never change. And if you change, it will take years, 1 year, 2, 3 years, to see change and to see progress, right? You know that you will have to compromise and to sacrifice sometimes just to keep peace in the relationship. Know that and remember that you will be on your own a lot, and that could feel really lonely and unsatisfying in a relationship. To feel like you're alone in a relationship, that will be really unsatisfying, and you might be feeling that often with a dismissive avoidant, right? Know that you can improve yourself and become secure going through this process or trying to be with them, and then when there's a possibility you might develop yourself, you might become more secure, and then you realize that you deserve better and you don't want to be with them again, and that's a good thing, right? And remember that you choose to be with them. You choose this type of person. So you came here trying to figure out how to be with them. So when you get stressed, when you get annoyed, it could be really annoying being with them. You get frustrated when they are cold, they are distant, they avoid you, they're aloof, they're standoffish, they disappear, they disregard you. You don't feel like you're getting attention, they don't give you quality time, you feel like you're taken for granted, and all of these are valid like emotions you feel, and it is true, you will feel like that being with them. Know that you decided to be with them. You take responsibility and know that you decided to try and be with them, right? So remember and know that they have trouble connecting, they have trouble being emotional, they have trouble showing affection, and you would often feel alone, neglected, abandoned, empty, distant, disconnected from them. You will be worried about relationship often because you have this anxious attachment style, right? When you need support, they might push you away, they might pull away, they might avoid you, and you might lack support, and you could feel unhappy in this relationship, right? You will feel hurt, you will feel confused by their behavior because they might tend to lie, they might tend to hide things, they are extremely sneaky, but they are only doing this maybe to feel safe. Remember that it's incredibly hard to change attachment style. You need willpower, you need knowledge, you need patience, you need guidance, you're going to make mistakes, and it takes years for both of you to change and to have a better relationship or to see change. Remember that you have unpleasant behaviors yourself as having an anxious attachment style, and that could annoy them too, right? So that's the end of this video. That is how to be with a dismissive avoidant. And I hope this helps. You don't have to be with them. You can be with someone else. It's going to be hard and stressful. It's going to take a lot of time. So I hope this video helps, and see you in the next video. If you like this content, hit the like button, and you can also subscribe, and see you in the next video.